Hello, class 11th. We stopped in the last class on the page number 67, begin his work till here. Let's continue and complete the chapter now. Okay. An hour elapsed. It was a long, harsh struggle. Then, as the first streaks of dawn strayed past the broken edges of the blind, the child was born, lifeless. Now, finally, we see that the child has taken birth, but the child has no life. The child is a stillborn, okay, and lifeless. As he gazed at the still form of body of the baby, a shiver of horror passed over Andrew. Now we see that as Andrew is looking at the baby that is not moving, he is having, we can say, a shiver. He was shivering. At once he was, we can say, he was shaken with horror, tension, scared he was. Because he has seen something which should not be seen by him, because the whole family was having so many expectations from this baby, and the responsibility of making them happy was of Andrew's. Okay, so after all that, he had promised that nothing is going to happen, nothing wrong will be happening. His face heated with his own exertions, chilled suddenly. Suddenly, all the sweat and the redness of the face due to the exertions which were seen, now they have all gone, and he has become as cold as ice. He hesitated, torn between his desire to attempt to resuscitate the child and his obligation towards the mother. Now his situation is a situation where he is torn, divided. What to do? See the child or check the mother? Okay. Blindly, instinctively, he gave the child to the nurse. And now what happened? Without thinking or without wasting much of time, he handed over the baby to the midwife, to the nurse. Okay. And then definitely he went forward for the mother. And when he saw Susan Morgan, she was collapsed. She was absolutely lying like a dead body. In his and almost she was pulseless and not yet out of the ether anesthesia upon her side. His haste was desperate. Whatever he did was in very, we can say, very fast. Haste is to hurry. So his fast decision was, and this decision to check the mother first was desperate. It was the next thing which came in his mind. Okay, and then frantic race against her ebbing strength, and he was putting hard all the efforts so that he tries to bring back Susan Morgan to life, normal life again. Okay, ebbing means something which is reducing. Here reducing is what? Her life. There was very less of strength remained in her body, and now Andrew is trying to bring it out as soon as possible. As soon as possible, he wants Susan to be, back to normal life. Okay. Now, it took him only an instant to smash the glass ampule. There was a bottle, small bottles of made up of glass, in which we have that medicine. So he smashed the lid of the ampule and he injected the syringe, and he just took the medicine in the syringe, and then he very we can say with no emotionlessly he put that syringe, or we can say just attacked the body of the wife of Joe Morgan, Susan. He injected the injection without any feeling, and then he just smashed it. Worked unsparingly without any spare. he just unsparingly did flung the hypodermic syringe to restore the flaccid, pale, colorless woman. Okay, after a few minutes of feverish effort, her heart strengthened, and suddenly, after some time, she was breathing. After a few minutes of feverish effort, her heart strengthened. He saw that he might safely leave her. Now, finally, he decided she's out of danger. I can focus on the child now. He swung round in his shirt sleeves, his hair sticking to his damp brow. The midwife made a frightened gesture. She had placed it beneath the bed. In a flash, Andrew knelt down, fishing amongst the sodden newspapers below the bed. He pulled out the child. Now he asks, where's the child? So the midwife was very frightened and she has just placed the baby under the bed. So now again, finally, quickly, very quickly, Andrew kneeled down and he brought the baby up. He pulled out the child, a boy, perfectly formed. The limp, warm body was white and soft as a tallow. Tallow, the hard fat of animals melted and used to make soap, candles, etc. That is, the baby's skin was very soft. The cord hastily slashed, lay like a broken stem. The skin was of lovely texture, smooth and tender. The head lolled on the thin neck. The limbs seemed boneless. So it was like, the formation of the body was absolutely perfect, but there was no life, so the whole body was flexible. Yes. Still kneeling, Andrew stared at the child with a haggard frown. The whiteness meant only one thing, asphyxia pallida, and his mind, unnaturally tense, raced back to a case he once had seen in the Samaritan to the treatment that had been used. Instantly he was on his feet. Now for that, we need to understand asphyxia pallida, suffocation or unconscious condition caused by lack of oxygen. So completely there was just one problem in the baby, that the baby is not able to get the oxygen which makes him breathe and finally get up. Okay, so looking at this condition, he instantly remembers one of the cases he must have taken some time back in his life. So, and then instantly he got an idea and he was starting with the thing. Get me hot water and cold water. He threw out to the nurse. So means he shouted at the nurse to give him some hot water and cold water and basins too. Quick, quick! But doctor, she faltered, her eyes on the pallid body of the child. So now she is not able to take her eyes off from the baby, and she says she is hesitant that what is the doctor now going to do with the stillborn. But then the doctor said, quick! Snatching a blanket, he laid the child upon it and began the special method of respiration. The basins arrived, the ewer, the big iron kettle. Frantically, he splashed cold water into one basin. In the other, he mixed water as hot as his hand could bear. So now he has prepared two basins. One is with cold and one is with bearable hot water. Okay. Then some crazy juggler, he hurried the child between the two, and then he is doing the movement like a juggler. Juggler is we can say an artist who keeps on juggling the things from one hand to another, balls and all. So like a juggler, he was moving the child from hot water to the cold, and then he was just doing this again and again. Between the two, now plunging it into the icy, now into the steaming bath. Once the child was into the ice cold water, and then the child was in the steaming basin. 15 minutes passed. Sweat was now rushing into Andrew's eyes. Sweat from the tip of the head started, crossed the eyebrow, and was entering the eye. But Andrew was not at all paying any attention to that. He was focused on the child. Okay. Now, his breath came pantingly, but no breath came from the lax body of the child. The child was, after such so, we can say, bad efforts are being put by Andrew, he has started to pant. He was having a problem in breathing. He was breathing very fastly, but there was not at all even the slightest of the change in the body of in the baby. A desperate sense of defeat pressed him. Now, what happened? He was almost there to give up. He was there to accept his defeat, a raging hopelessness. It was a hopelessness which was causing anger. He felt the midwife watching him in stark consternation while there, pressed back against the wall where she had all the time remained, her hand pressed to her throat, uttering no sound, her eyes burning upon him, was the old woman. Now, the old woman is not accepting what is going on in front of her. In front of her means wherever she is, she does not want to listen any bad news. He remembered her longing for a grandchild. Now Andrew remembers how badly the family needs the child and how badly the grandmother wants to see the baby. As great as had been her daughter's longing for the child, all dashed away now, futile beyond remedy. Now all those expectations are considered to be useless, futile failure, beyond remedy, irreparable. The floor was now a dragless mess. Now the floor was draggled mess. It was like what efforts which were being put has done nothing but just created a mess. It was useless. Stumbling over a sopping towel, Andrew almost dropped the child. There was a towel on the floor. He was stepped over the towel and he was almost about to slip and drop the child, which was now wet and slippery in his hands like a strange white fish. And even the child, the baby, was almost going out of his hands because even his hands were wet due to the sweat. For mercy's sake, doctor, whimpered the midwife, it is stillborn. For God's sake, doctor, stop it. The child is almost dead. Andrew did not pay attention to her. Andrew did not heed her. Beaten, despairing, having labored in vain for half an hour, he still persisted in one last effort. He was still there, waiting to give the last effort after half hour of futile efforts. Rubbing the child with a rough towel, crushing and releasing the little chest with both his hands, trying to get breath into that limp body. So this was his last way of attempting to bring back the life. So what was his effort, last effort? That he'll rub the child with the rough towel and then he's going to crush that, he's going to press the body and then release the chest with both of his hands so that there is some air. If there is a blockage, it goes away and the air enters the body. And then as by miracle, the pygmy chest, pygmy means small, chest which his hands enclosed gave a short, convulsive heave, another and another. Andrew turned giddy. Now there was a shot. Shot means there was a push, okay, with in the body, and then this was continuous. As then by miracle the pygmy chest which his hands enclosed gave a shot. There was a push from the chest. That is a heartbeat. It started to beat. Okay. And then another and then another. The heartbeat was increasing and then Andrew was turning giddy. He was almost feeling unconscious. The sense of life springing beneath his fingers after all that unavailing striving was so exquisite it almost made him faint. Finally, he was not able to believe that what he has done is real. So this thing was making him having a feeling of fainting. He redoubled his efforts feverishly and now whatever energy is left in his body, he is there to give the double effort. If he is pressing the body once, so now he was pressing it 2 times, 3 times. Okay. The child was gasping now, deeper and deeper, opening the mouth to breathe. A bubble of mucus came from one of his tiny nostrils, a joyful, iridescent bubble. There was mucus in the nose, that is the blockage. Now as the baby is trying to breathe, that mucus is coming out, and that mucus was shining, and it was very positive feeling there. Okay. The limbs were no longer boneless. Now there is strength in the limbs and the legs, and the bones have gained the strength, and the body is no more flexible. It is having stiffness in it, strength in it. The head no longer lay back spinelessly. There was life in the neck. The neck was just moving like this without any life, but now the baby is having firmness in the neck also. The blanched skin was slowly turning pink. Now the face, which was pale, has turned pink. Then exquisitely came the child's cry, and now finally the child started to cry. Dear Father in heaven, the nurse sobbed hysterically. It has come alive. Now finally the nurse started to cry out with joy. Andrew handed her the child. He felt weak and dazed. About him the room lay in a shuddering litter: blankets, towels, basins, instruments, hypodermic syringe impaled by its point in the linoleum. You were knocked over, the kettle on its side in the puddle of water. Upon the huddled bed, the mother still dreamed her way quietly through the anesthetic. Now this is the scene of the room. Everything is a mess. Everything is out of its place. There is no proper systematic arrangements in the room because of the case which was going on. Finally, now has shifted to the room. The main purpose was to rescue the child, to resuscitate the child. Okay, now that is done. Now finally the author wants us to have a look at the room so that we understand the intensity and the seriousness of the problem. Upon the huddled bed, even the bed was not clean. It was having many things over it. The mother still dreamed her way quietly through the anesthetic. The mother is still having, we can say, a kind of a dose which is not making her get up. She is having anesthesia. The old woman still stood against the wall, but her hands were together. Her lips moved without sound. She was praying. Mechanically, Andrew wrung out his sleeve, pulled on his jacket. I'll fetch my bag later. He went downstairs through the kitchen into the scullery. His lips were dry. At the scullery, he took a long drink of water. He reached for his hat and coat. Outside, he found Joe standing on the pavement with a tense, expectant face. All right, Joe? Both are all right. It was quite light, nearly 5 o'clock. A few miners were already in the streets, the first of the night shift moving out. As Andrew walked with them, spent and slow, his footfalls echoing with the others under the morning sky. He kept thinking blindly, oblivious to all other work he had done in Blanley. I've done something, oh God, I've done something real at last. Now finally we see that he has not told anything what happened in the room to Joe, but he just told him the positive news. He just gave him the news that the baby and the mother both are fine. And then he realizes that expect less and do more. So it was a very, we can say, a brave attitude of Andrew. Yes. So we can see that Andrew is a brave man, that he kept his personal life at one side and he focused on his professional life, and he has done something which was very incredible in the beginning of his career as a doctor. That's it. The chapter is over. I am going to send you the PDF, the summary of the chapter on the group. Okay? And the next class, we are going to study Mother's Day from the same book. Alright? Thank you.